Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and Mass Effect Andromeda is soon upon us. Unless you're a part of EA Access, then you're already playing the game. Anyway, Mass Effect Andromeda is special to my channel because it marks the first game outside of a Bethesda Game Studios game that I've actually extensively covered and had some success with it, so I wanted to thank you guys first and foremost for being a part of that coverage, and the launch should be pretty exciting. Anyway, I'm recording this before I dive into my EA Access 10-hour trial, which I will deliver my impressions for later on, to talk about why I'm excited despite my skepticism. Let's recap why I just love Bioware in general. While they haven't been that good recently, in my own personal opinion, they've made some of my favorite games of all time. Knights of the Old Republic, we've talked about this to no end on why I love this game, but if you're new here, the reason I love Knights of the Old Republic is because I think that is the definitive RPG. It has an interesting, deep combat system that I learn something about consistently each time I sit down for a new playthrough. On top of that, it has a wonderful, layered story, interesting companions, huge plot twist, but also in the terms of a Star Wars game, it manages to do justice to the franchise by differentiating from Star Wars, but still being a Star Wars game. It's really hard to explain unless you actually play it, because you'll see things like vibroblades and think, this really isn't Star Wars, but it becomes a part of that universe, and it feels just right. On the other hand, they've also made Dragon Age Origins. The reason this game was so special for me is because while Knights of the Old Republic was one of my first RPGs I ever played, Dragon Age Origins was the one that felt like a true evolution for Bioware. It was exactly what I loved in Knights of the Old Republic, put into another universe, in a universe that I absolutely adored. You could apply the same type of compliments that I gave Knights of the Old Republic to Dragon Age Origins, because that's also one of my favorite games of all time. It had a layered story, deep companions. I mean, you could sit in your camp for hours talking to companions, which was a really impressive feat for a game at its time. While the combat can be a little more action focused, it still has that KOTOR DNA, which I'm perfectly okay with. But building an army to fight the Darkspawn in Ferelden, it's such a good plot setup because of the choices you can make and who you can bring into your army, encouraging multiple playthroughs. So that's one reason why I'm excited for this game, is because Bioware has made my favorite games of all time. They've also made the Mass Effect franchise, which I know despite Mass Effect 3's controversy, I loved each and every single one of them, and I never really realized how much I sit down to play these games, because I remember a summer ago and the summer before that, I went to GameStop both times and picked up the trilogy for the PS3 because I just wanted to play Mass Effect. It's not really until you get immersed into a community like the Mass Effect community, who's been really awesome to me, that you realize, wow, I've actually been playing this series for a while, and quite a bit of it at that. I was a bit late to the Mass Effect hype train, as I didn't get my Xbox 360 until about 2008. I was actually playing my PS2 up until then, but still, Mass Effect 1 was one of the first next-gen games I played at the time for myself. And truth be told, like with a lot of franchises I fall in love with, I didn't really like it at first, and I actually moved on to play, I think, a launch game that came with my 360 because I was so bored. I only had two games. It was Mass Effect, and I want to say Kung Fu Panda, and I think I actually willingly switched off to Kung Fu Panda, which is insane to say that I liked Mass Effect so much now, but yet that's a decision I made back then. Anyway, I gave it a second try, fell in love with it, played it through, and then I remember Christmas a couple of years later, once again I was late to Mass Effect. I said, oh right, there's a Mass Effect 2, why not try it out, as if it was a nonchalant decision, because when I sat down and played it, oh my god, Mass Effect 2 is my favorite within the Mass Effect franchise. And in 3, I got on launch day, I got conned into that day 1 DLC. I did enjoy my time with it thoroughly, but I think that's because I didn't pay attention to a lot of the controversy that hit Mass Effect 3 and its ending, but after you do some research, it's not that good. Another thing that's really raised my excitement level for this game is the pre-launch impressions I've been receiving from fellow content creators who are saying the game is fantastic. Don't get me wrong though, I have seen the videos of the facial animations and people ripping those apart, and it's become scary reminiscent of Fallout 4, and I'm not saying that in a good way, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm a little afraid for that, because it seems like Bioware's always been strong with writing, strong with hitting those emotional moments, but if the person who's talking to me has this very awkward android-like facial expression, it breaks the immersion. It ruins a lot of what could become immersive in a conversation because they're just not acting natural. With that out of the way though, I've heard that the side quests are great, the exploration's great, the story's great, the voice acting's great, so maybe this is going to be one of those cases where just the facial animations are bad, but we have a lot of pros to celebrate within this title. Still, I'm sure that even if this game is awesome, people will tear this down to no end, like with any game that has a flaw that's been exposed. We were talking about Mass Effect 3's ending and how fans didn't really receive that all too well, and that's why I wanted to tie it into a reason why I'm excited for the title, which is a chance for Bioware to hopefully bounce back, not only from the Mass Effect screw-up, but from my own personal opinion, Dragon Age Inquisition. I was ridiculously excited for this game, and it felt like the biggest letdown that still kind of hurts me to this day. I understand and respect why people love Dragon Age Inquisition, but as a long-term Bioware fan, I simply cannot enjoy that game given what I fell in love with to start off my Bioware adventure. It is such a large deviation from anything they have ever created, in my honest opinion, especially when you have a template such as Dragon Age Origins, which is a masterfully crafted game. Then you see what happens with Dragon Age 2 when you deviate too much from that template and don't just try to innovate upon it, leading to Dragon Age Inquisition, which I felt was a chance for them to bounce back, and in my personal opinion, they did not. The same could be applied for Mass Effect, where you have 1 and 2 as a template, 3 which was a bit of a screw up, and now Andromeda, you can take all you've learned from the previous Mass Effect games and put it into one. Why did I not like Inquisition so much? Well, let's start off with the quests. I think a big part of Bioware games is the amazing quests they offer you, and in Inquisition, it was pretty much an MMO. As someone who consistently plays Elder Scrolls Online, as well as in the past many years ago, I dabbled in Star Wars The Old Republic, those quests were straight from an MMO. Collect this, kill that, nothing more, nothing less. It was the most uncompelling questing system I've experienced in a long while. I still have yet to play a game with that type of budget that has topped it, and that ties into the exploration. Because I wasn't doing anything interesting for an interesting person, I ended up mindlessly exploring, not really observing or caring too much about the world I was in because nothing interesting was happening. And while maybe many will agree with what I've previously said, I feel that most will disagree with the main story aspect, I feel, which was that it just wasn't that good. It didn't grip me like a Dragon Age story has in the past. I found 2 more gripping, which I think says a lot in the terms of story. It felt like Inquisition was this unsuccessful power trip at the end of the day. The only big highlight in the game was really the romance and the companions in general. So for me, I was personally very disappointed in BioWare's last title. So for me, unlike a lot of other people, I felt this was a chance for them to really bounce back with Mass Effect Andromeda and hopefully deliver a game that I'll be excited about along with everyone else. Dragon Age Inquisition had a lot of good ideas, and I've seen that a couple of them are making their way into Mass Effect in their own way, so hopefully Bioware is able to evolve them into something true, much like the War Table, which I've discussed a little bit, and how that's most likely going to be how the Nexus works in Mass Effect Andromeda. And the last thing that has me excited is, as a big music guy in video games, I have to say that the score will have hopefully more pieces like Vigil, Normandy, the Elusive Man, and so on, because what's great about the Mass Effect soundtrack is that you'll hear a song and instantly go, that is so Mass Effect. And I think that's really powerful for a series because not many franchises can say that. There are so many iconic pieces that have come out of the Mass Effect franchise, and I really hope Andromeda carries the torch when it comes to that. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I just want to get it all out there on why I'm excited for this game, despite my skepticism. After this, I'm actually going to dive into my 10-hour trial, and I'll have impressions for that before the game officially launches. Hopefully they'll be good impressions, but regardless, I'll be here with my brutal honesty as always, so I hope you're looking forward to that. Are you excited for Andromeda? Are you nervous? Let me know in the comments down below and why. As always, be sure to follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. The links are in the description down below. Be sure to consider contributing to the Patreon. It helps fuel all the content we create here. Other than that, stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.